The night was cold enough to sting the skin. Sean Turner pulled his jacket tighter around himself as he walked down East Wabash Avenue. The Avalon Grand cinema stood at the corner like a relic from another century, its neon sign buzzing faintly. A long red carpet from a premiere still lay rolled up in the lobby, now dirty from the muddy shoes of countless guests who had passed over it. Sean had not wanted to work here. His probation officer had given him a list of jobs, and this was the only one that called him back. A high school dropout with 2 misdemeanors was not much of a candidate for anything else. The pay was too good for a simple usher position. That was the first thing that made him suspicious. The second was the interview. The manager, David Marlowe, was tall and lean, his hair perfectly combed back as if every strand obeyed him. His gray eyes had a way of locking onto a person and making them feel like their thoughts were being examined. David had not asked many standard interview questions. He had slid a single sheet of paper across the desk. On the paper were rules. They were not ordinary rules about uniforms or customer service. They were strange. They felt wrong. Sean had read them carefully. Rule 1: never open the door to Auditorium 3 after the movie has started. Rule 2: if you see a costumed character leading children away from the lobby, alert the manager immediately. Rule 3: not speak to anyone who leaves Auditorium 3 during a showing until the credits are over. Rule 4: if you hear a voice calling your name from anywhere you cannot see, do not respond. 5: if you notice the same person in every auditorium at the same time, notify the manager and avoid eye contact. The rules went on. 13 in total. Sean remembered feeling a cold weight in his chest as he read them. David had watched him the entire time without blinking. Now standing in the empty lobby for his first shift, Sean felt that weight again. The cinema smelled faintly of old popcorn and something else. Something damp. The chandeliers overhead flickered like candles, although they were electric. David appeared from behind the concession counter. His shoes made no sound on the polished marble floor. "You are on time, Sean. That is good. Punctuality matters here." Sean nodded uncertainly and looked at the rows of golden doors that led to each auditorium. "I suppose you read the rules, David," said Sean. Nodded again. "Then we will have no trouble tonight," David said. His expression did not change, but there was a glint in his eye that made Sean uneasy. The first few hours were quiet. Sean checked tickets, swept up popcorn cups and wrappers, and guided customers to their seats. The Avalon had 12 auditoriums and 1 hidden screening room for private events. Auditorium 3 stood in the middle of the hallway, its golden door polished brighter than the others. It was near midnight when the first incident happened. Sean was sweeping near the door to Auditorium 3 when he heard something, a faint tapping like fingernails on wood. He froze. The sound came again. Tap, tap, tap. Then a voice. "Please, open the door. I need to get out." "Tit," was a woman's voice, trembling. With fear? Sean felt his chest tighten. She spoke again, her voice rising in urgency. "It's too hot. I cannot breathe." Sean stepped closer to the door. He could smell smoke. A thin line of it seeped from beneath the door, curling toward his shoes. He remembered Rule 1. Never open the door to Auditorium 3 after the movie has started. The tapping became pounding. "Please, help." Sean reached for the handle before stopping himself. Then he remembered something David had said during the interview. His exact words echoed in Sean's head. "If the room knows your name, do not listen." Sean's pulse raced. "Help me, Sean." He staggered backward. He had not told her his name. The smoke vanished. The pounding stopped. Sean's hands were trembling as he gripped the broom. David appeared at the end of the hallway, as if he had been watching from somewhere unseen. "Good, you did not open it," he said. Calmly, "What is in there?" Sean asked, before remembering he should not ask questions. David's gray eyes narrowed slightly. "You will last longer if you do not try to know too much." The rest of the night passed in tense silence. The next night the cinema was busier. A new Marvel release had brought in a crowd that wrapped around the block. Sean stood by the ticket counter, scanning tickets while the lobby filled with excited voices. The Avalon always felt strange to Sean, but on nights like this, the strangeness seemed hidden behind the noise. The chandeliers glowed steady. The smell of dampness faded beneath the scent of popcorn. The golden doors stayed quiet. David had hired cosplayers to promote the premiere. Captain America, Thor, Black Panther, and Doctor Strange walked the lobby posing for photos. Sean had seen events like this at other cinemas. It almost felt normal. Then Sean remembered Rule 2. If you see a costumed character leading children away from the lobby, alert the manager. Immediately David had made him memorize the list of costumes being used that night. Iron Man was not one of them. An hour into the show, Sean was carrying empty popcorn tubs to the garbage room when he saw it. At the far end of the lobby, a figure in red and gold armor was walking slowly. It moved stiffly, as if each step took effort. 3 children followed behind it in a straight line. Their expressions were blank. They stared straight ahead as they walked. Sean froze. The Iron Man costume was scratched and dented as if it had been buried underground. The figure did not greet fans or stop for photos. It moved past the crowd unnoticed, as if no one could see it but Sean. The children followed. Sean felt the same cold weight in his chest that he had felt near Auditorium 3. His instincts screamed at him to run. He turned and sprinted for David's office. Iron Man costume. 3 kids heading toward the garbage room, he said as he burst inside. David was on his feet in an instant. His chair toppled to the ground. Where he is, David demanded. Sean pointed toward the far hallway. David grabbed something from the bottom drawer of his desk. Sean caught only a glimpse of it before David was gone. It looked like a heavy black coat, wrapped around something long and sharp. Sean followed him at a distance. The Iron Man figure had reached the garbage room door. David moved fast, closing the distance without making a sound. In one motion he threw open the garbage room door and shoved the armored figure inside. The children collapsed to the ground, as if waking from a trance. They began to cry. David slammed the door shut. A muffled sound came from inside. It was not the sound of metal. It was wet and heavy. The stench that followed was like rotting meat. It was 23 minutes before David opened the garbage room door again. His shirt was stained with something dark red. His face was pale. "Clean up in there, Sean," he said. Quietly, Sean stepped inside. The room was empty. The smell was worse. A single piece of metal lay on the ground, a part of a helmet shaped like a jaw. Sean turned it over with his foot. There was something carved inside. He could not read the language. David appeared in the doorway. His voice was flat. "Do not touch it." Sean nodded and stepped back. The rest of the night passed without another incident, but Sean could not stop thinking about the children. The Avalon Grand was quieter. 2 nights later, a cold rain swept down State Street. Only a few customers came in for the late show. Sean stood near the concession stand with a bucket of popcorn salt in his hand. The lobby lights reflected off the wet pavement outside. David was nowhere in sight. He had been more distant since the Iron Man incident. Sean had not asked questions. The shows began. Sean moved between auditoriums, collecting trash and checking for stragglers. He was halfway past Auditorium 3 when the door opened. Sean stopped. A man stepped out. He was tall, thin, and pale. His eyes looked wrong. They were too bright in the dim hallway. His suit was outdated, like something from 50 years ago. Rule 3 was clear. Do not speak to anyone who leaves Auditorium 3 during a showing until the credits are over. The man looked directly at Sean. His lips moved as if he was speaking, but no sound came out. Sean stood frozen. The man stepped closer. His shoes made no sound on the carpet. His lips kept moving. The closer he came, the colder the air felt. Sean's breath misted in front of him. Sean forced himself to look away. He focused on the floor, the walls, anything but the man. The walls, anything but the man. A sound filled his ears. His vision blurred. It felt as if the walls of the hallway were bending inward. The man stopped inches from Sean. His shoes were wet, as if he had been walking in water. A faint smell of river mud clung to him. Sean's heart pounded. He could feel the man leaning closer. His lips brushed the air near Sean's ear. Sean clenched his jaw and did not answer. Footsteps echoed at the far end of the hallway. David appeared, his face expressionless. "Back inside the auditorium, please, David," said the man's head turned slowly. His eyes were still too bright. David's voice was sharper now. Inside, the man walked back to the golden door and stepped through it. The door closed. David turned to Sean. "You did well. Do not ever answer them." Sean wanted to ask who the man was, but the words caught in his throat. David walked away without another word. The credits rolled 20 minutes later. The audience from Auditorium 3 exited as if nothing had happened. Sean checked the room afterward. The seats were damp. A faint smell of river water lingered in the air. The rain had not stopped for 3 days. The Avalon Grand felt heavier each night, as if the building absorbed the weather. Water streaked the high windows of the lobby. The golden doors glowed faintly in the dim light. Sean's shift started quietly. A small crowd came in for a late screening of a noir classic in Auditorium 3. The rest of the auditoriums were nearly empty. David was in his office going over paperwork. Sean was checking the projection booths when he heard it. "Sean," the voice was faint. Sean stopped. The hallway was empty. He continued toward the projection booth for Auditorium 6. "Sean," this time, the voice was closer. It was calm, steady, almost gentle. Rule 4 returned to his mind. If you hear a voice calling your name from anywhere you cannot see, do not respond. Sean's skin prickled. He gripped the railing at the top of the stairs. "Sean, come here." The voice was coming from the darkened corner near the far end of the hallway. No one ever went down there. The old storage rooms had been locked for years. Sean took a step toward the corner without thinking. The air felt heavier. The faint hum of the projectors seemed distant now. His own footsteps sounded muted. "Sean, come closer." The voice was lower now, almost a whisper. Sean stopped inches from the corner. The darkness there seemed too deep, as if the shadows had weight. A faint smell drifted out. Not rot, not smoke, but something old. River water again. Sean reached out his hand. The sound of a door slamming broke the silence. Sean turned. David was standing at the top of the hallway. "Step back," David said, his voice low. Sean froze. Now Sean stepped back from the corner. The shadows shifted slightly, like something moving inside them. Then the smell faded. David's eyes were cold. "You never answer." "Not once. Not even by accident." Sean nodded. His hands were still shaking. The rest of the shift passed without incident, but Sean could feel it now. Whatever was in the Avalon had learned his name. The Avalon Grand was busy again on Friday night. 3 new films had opened, and the building pulsed with voices, footsteps, and the faint smell of wet coats. Sean stood near the ticket scanner, guiding the crowd toward the correct auditoriums. It was during a routine walkthrough that he first noticed her. In Auditorium 1, halfway back, sat a woman in a pale blue dress. Her hair was black, cut sharply at her shoulders. She sat perfectly straight, hands folded in her lap. Her eyes never left the screen. Sean thought nothing of it at first. He moved on to Auditorium 4, halfway back. In the same seat position sat the same woman, the same pale blue dress, the same posture. Sean felt a chill run through him. He moved on to Auditorium 7. She was there again. Rule 5 echoed in his head. If you notice the same person in every auditorium at the same time, notify the manager, and avoid eye contact. Sean avoided her gaze and stepped quickly into the hallway. His chest felt tight. He made his way to David's office. "There is someone in multiple auditoriums," Sean said. David's head snapped up from his desk. "Describe her." described the pale blue dress, the black hair, the fixed posture. David stood abruptly. His voice was low. Do not look at her directly. Do not acknowledge her. Stay out of the auditoriums for the next hour. Sean wanted to ask what she was, but David was already moving down the hallway. From the lobby, Sean could see him enter Auditorium 1. The door stayed open just enough for Sean to see a sliver of light from inside. Minutes passed. The door closed. David emerged a short time later. His hair looked damp, as though he had been outside in the rain. His face was pale. She is gone for now, David said. His voice was calm, but his hands tightened on the doorknob before he walked away. Sean glanced toward the other auditoriums. The seats were empty where she had been, but the air felt heavier, as if she might return at any moment. The night was nearly over when the man approached the counter. He was tall, with a heavy coat, dripping rainwater onto the lobby floor. His expression was pale and strained. There is something in the vents above Auditorium 6, he said. It is scratching. It sounds like it is trying to get in. Sean's stomach tightened. Rule 6 was clear. If a customer hears noises in the air, ducks assure them that you will look into it. Take one of the packages. Marked R6 from behind the bar. Enter. The air ducks through the garbage room and place the contents at least 10 meters from the entrance, then leave as fast as possible. Sean nodded calmly. I will look into it. David was not in sight. Sean stepped behind the bar and opened the small cabinet below the counter. Inside were several black packages, marked in red with R6. Each was heavy and faintly damp to the touch. He took one and made his way to the garbage room. The smell of damp concrete and old trash filled the space. Against the far wall was a metal grate leading into the air ducts. Sean knelt and unscrewed the grate. A rush of cool air brushed his face. The scratching sound came faintly from somewhere inside. It was fast and constant, like dozens of nails tapping metal. He climbed in, pulling the package with him. The metal floor of the duct was cold beneath his palms. The deeper he crawled, the louder the sound became. It moved quickly, darting back and forth in the dark. Sean kept his eyes ahead. 10 meters in, he stopped. The air felt thicker here. He placed the package down. The sound in the duct shifted instantly. It grew frantic. A faint smell filled the space copper, and something raw. Sean turned and crawled back. The scratching followed at a distance. He reached the opening and dropped into the garbage room. The grate clanged shut behind him. The sound stopped. Sean stood still, breathing hard. The garbage room was silent again, except for the faint drip of rainwater somewhere above. He returned to the lobby. David was there now, speaking with a customer. He glanced at Sean, his gray eyes sharp. Did you place it? Sean nodded. Good, David said. The rest of the shift was uneventful, but Sean could not stop thinking about the scratching in the dark. The Avalon Grand felt different that night. The air was warmer than usual, heavy in a way that made it harder to breathe. Sean noticed it first in the lobby. The chandeliers burned brighter, casting sharp beams of light across the marble floor. It should have been ordinary light, but the shadows were wrong. Rule 7 was etched clearly in Sean's memory. If you notice shadows being cast in the wrong direction, be alert and avoid being alone. Sean was working the late shift alone on the main floor. David was upstairs in the projection booth. Most of the customers were already seated in the auditoriums. Sean stepped into the hallway and stopped. The shadow of the velvet rope near Auditorium 5 stretched toward the ceiling, as though the light was coming from beneath the floor. The shadow of the concession counter curved against the wall, like a bent arm. Sean's throat went dry. At the far end of the hallway stood a man. He was tall, his suit pressed and immaculate, but his face was hard to see in the dim light. His shadow stretched in the wrong direction, leading toward Sean, even though the light was behind Sean's back. Sean took a step backward. The man's voice was calm. David asked you a question, Sean. Sean froze. He had not heard David speak. He had not heard David speak. The man toward him. Each step was slow, deliberate. His shoes clicked softly against the floor. The shadows around him rippled unnaturally. Sean tried to steady his breath. He glanced toward the garbage room. His instincts told him to move there, though he did not know why. The man's shadow reached a wall before he did. It stretched unnaturally long. Fingers extended as though trying to touch Sean. Sean turned sharply and walked toward the garbage room. His heart raced. The man followed, his steps steady. Inside the garbage room, the air was colder. Sean stepped near the wall by the air duct. The scratching sound he had heard before in the ducts was faint now. Distant but there. The man stepped into the room. "It has been quiet too long, Sean," he said. "I have been waiting." His voice sounded strange now, as if something else was speaking through him. Sean stepped back slowly. His eyes darted toward the vent. A sudden flurry of sound came from the duct. Something moved inside, fast and heavy. The man's expression shifted. His eyes widened. No, a violent force ripped him backward. His body twisted unnaturally as he was pulled into the vent. The sound of cracking bone echoed through the room. His shadow jerked violently before vanishing. Altogether, the garbage room was silent again. Sean stood still, breathing hard. The only sound was the slow drip of water from somewhere above. He left the room and closed the door firmly behind him. David was waiting in the hallway. His gray eyes searched Sean's face. "You handled it," David said simply. Sean said nothing. The Avalon Grand was quiet that night. Only 2 late shows were running, and the building felt heavy and still. Rain tapped against the high windows of the lobby. Sean was finishing the trash run before closing. The garbage room smelled of damp paper and old wood. He stacked the last of the bags on the trolley, ready to take them to the chute. That was when one of the bags moved. It fell from the trolley with a wet thud. Sean froze. The bag spasmed again. Something inside shifted against the plastic. "Help me." The voice was faint, muffled, desperate. Sean's chest tightened. "Help me, please." The words were clearer now, pleading. The bag moved again, a distorted shape pressing against the plastic, as if something inside was trying to push its way out. Sean remembered Rule 8. If a garbage bag moves or speaks, do not open it. Take it to the chute immediately. The bag jerked violently. The voice grew frantic. "Please do not send me back. I cannot go back there." Sean gripped the top of the bag. The plastic was cold and slick, almost wet. The shape inside twisted sharply, as if it were fighting to get free. Sean dragged it toward the chute. The voice grew louder, more desperate. "I can change. I can help you. I can tell you what is in room 3. Sean's grip tightened on the bag. His breath came fast. At the chute, he opened the lid. The metal creaked. The shape inside the bag pressed upward, as if trying to escape. Fingers or something, like them, pushed against the plastic. "Please. Please do not." Sean pushed the bag into the chute. It caught on the edge for a moment, clinging as the voice begged. "Please, I cannot go back." Sean shoved the bag hard. The lid closed with a heavy sound. The garbage room was silent again. Sean leaned against the wall, breathing hard. His hands felt numb when he stepped back into the hallway. David was there, watching him with a measured look. "You did not open it, David," said Dot. Sean shook his head. "Good. Never open them." David walked away. Sean looked back at the garbage room door. The smell from inside lingered in the air, faint but sharp. The Avalon Grand was almost empty that night. A cold wind rattled the glass doors of the lobby. Only one film was showing in Auditorium 3, an old black and white classic that drew a small, quiet crowd. Sean was at the concession stand when he heard the sound. The golden door of Auditorium 3 opened. Sean looked up. A man stepped out. He was neatly dressed in a dark suit, his hair perfectly combed, his shoes polished. His expression was unreadable, his eyes distant but sharp. No one had left room 3, mid-showing in the years Sean had worked there. The man's steps were calm, unhurried. He crossed the lobby without glancing at the bar or the ticket counter. His shoes made no sound against the floor. Sean remembered Rule 9, if someone exits room 3 before the credits seek David immediately. Sean left the counter and moved quickly to the manager's office. David was at his desk, the black book open in front of him. His head lifted as soon as Sean stepped inside. "Someone came out of 3, Sean said. David's eyes sharpened. "Describe." "Him, dark suit, perfect hair. He looks like he walked out of another time." David was on his feet instantly. He closed the black book and moved toward the lobby. The man in the suit was standing near the middle of the marble floor now. His hands were clasped neatly. In front of him, his expression was calm, but there was something wrong in the stillness of his posture. "Good evening," he said. His voice was flat, steady, and cold. David's tone was controlled. "What do you want?" The man tilted his head slightly. "I want to speak to the manager." "You are speaking to him," David said. The man's faint smile did not change. "Room 3 is ready." David's eyes darkened. "Not yet." The man turned his gaze toward Sean. His smile widened just enough to show his teeth. Soon then, without another word, he walked to the golden door. He stepped inside. The door closed soundlessly behind him. The air in the lobby felt heavier. David's face was pale. His voice was low. "Get some rest tonight, Sean. Tomorrow will not be easy." Sean wanted to ask why, but the words would not come. David turned back toward his office, his shoulders tense. The golden door of room 3 stayed closed. The Avalon Grand felt wrong before Sean even stepped through the glass doors. The sky above Madison was heavy with low clouds, the kind that seemed to press down on the city. The street was empty. Even the constant hum of traffic felt muted. David was waiting in the lobby. He stood near the ticket counter, the black book in his hands. His expression was drawn, pale, but his eyes were steady. "You are late," David said. Sean glanced at the clock. He was early by 5 minutes. David looked toward the golden doors of room 3. "Tonight we will break rules 10 and 11. Sean's chest tightened. The rules had always been absolute. Breaking one had never been an option. "Why now?" Sean asked, before he could stop himself. David's gaze returned to him. "Because if we do not, room 3 will not need the door anymore. It will open itself." The building felt colder at his words. David turned and walked toward the projection hallway. Sean followed. Inside the manager's office, David set the black book on the desk. The pages were open to sections Sean had never seen before. Old handwriting filled them, dark ink on yellowed paper. "Rules 10 and 11 are not to be broken lightly," David said. "But tonight we have no choice." Sean looked at the pages. The words were in English, but they felt heavier than normal text, as if each sentence carried weight. David closed the book. "You will follow my instructions exactly. No questions." Sean nodded, though his throat was dry. David's eyes lingered on him. "The man in the suit will appear again. You will not speak to him. You will not look him in the eyes." "What happens if I do?" Sean asked quietly. David's expression did not change. "Then you will not leave the building." A low sound echoed from deep inside the Avalon. It was not the rumble of pipes or the creak of old wood. It was heavier, deeper, like something large shifting in its sleep. David's voice was calm, but his hands tightened on the edges of the desk. "It is waking Dot." Sean turned toward the hallway. The golden doors of room 3 seemed brighter, as if light from inside was pressing against them. David picked up the black book. His tone was steady. "When the time comes, we will open the door, and we will close it again." Sean's heart pounded. He could feel that every shadow in the Avalon was waiting. The night had not even started. The night had not even started